Hey, chestnuts! Alright, today we're going to be looking at a game by Firouzja and Vitiugov. Ooh. Okay, this was in the Prague Chess Festival. So Firouzja was just hot off a win. And let's see what he had in store for Mr. Vitiugov. Alright. Alright, let's go! E4. E5. Knight to F3. Knight to C6. Bishop to B5. A6. Bishop to A4. Knight to F6. Castle. Bishop to E7. So this is all just standard like Ruy Lopez, right? Okay. D3 reinforcing the center. B5. Bishop to B3. D6. Still pretty standard. C3. Castle. H3. H6. Then we have A4 attacking this pawn chain. Alright, bishop to B7. Having it aimed this way. Rook to E1, reinforcing the central pawn. You could also do A takes B5, and then A takes B5, and then rook takes A8, and then queen takes. And then have this, battery, just queen bishop battery lined up here. But Firouzja usually likes to keep his pieces on the board. So he plays rook to E1. Then we have rook to E8 by Vitiugov. He could also play knight to A5, attacking this bishop, right? Okay, knight B D2. Okay, rook to E8, knight B to D2. Bishop to F8, which is a common idea to reinforce this king and remaneuver this bishop. And now this rook is aiming at the center. Alright. Knight to F1. This is a very common remaneuver. We have these ideas, right? Or perhaps here. Okay. Then we have knight to A5. Also common. Bishop to C2. You could also play bishop to A2. Right? Keeping your eye on the king. But Firouzja chose bishop to C2 to reinforce the center. C5. Knight to E3. Queen to D7. And it was in this move that this game has never been played in the history of chess. Oh, alright. Another possible move is B4. And after which you can close the position with C4, right? Because if you open the position up, you have these rook ideas right here. So that's also another idea. But queen D7. Alright, it doesn't look like a special move, but now it's new game. Knight to H2. D5. You could also play B takes A4 here. But you're gonna be left with this isolated pawn. So that's also possible. B takes A4 and then perhaps like this. That's also possible, but it's probably a little better to go with the central pawn move. D5. A takes B5. A takes B5. Queen to F3. You could also play E takes D5. Knight takes D5. Then knight E to G4. And then we have knight E to G4 and then F6. Knight to F3. B4. And now black's playing for the queen side right here. So this is also possible. Alright. What was played was queen to F3, and then now we have C4. Knight H to G4. Knight takes, and then D takes E4. And then D takes E4. And then we have queen to E6. Alrighty. Now we have ideas of moving the rook over. And Firouzja chose queen to G3, aiming at this king, right? You could also choose to contest this file by rook to D1. But queen to G3. King to H8. Getting away from this, the queen having any of those kind of tactical ideas. If you go knight to B3, right? This looks super tempting, right? Putting a knight in that outpost. You're going to lose a pawn. Rook takes. Bishop takes. Bishop takes here. And now G pawn cannot capture because you have this move. See if you can find it. Give you a few minutes. Okay. Here we have knight to f6. King goes in the corner and then mate. Oh, so you do not capture that. You might put your queen here, right, to line it up with this queen to block that check or block that file, and then now you have bishop to e3. Okay, king to h8, and then f4, which looks not that solid, right? You're just contesting the center, but you know, it's something. If you want to play for the win, you probably should do that, because if you just go f3, you might have to do a lot more maneuvering. If you do something like f3 and then, you know, something like b4, black can have the initiative here first. So before black can gain the initiative, it was just like, dude, I want that. f4, baby. Okay, e takes f4, bishop takes, knight to b3. Then we have rook to a to d1, rook a to d8, contesting the center. Could also play knight to c5, you know, aiming here and aiming at this outpost as well. So that looks like a more flexible move, but this is also, it looks okay. And then we have e5, knight to c5. Okay, well, it was eventually played. Rook takes, rook takes. Now, can you play like Michael Tal or like Firouzja? What would be your move here? Give you a few minutes to figure it out. What would you play? Okay. Now, if you figured this out, man, you should be like a super duper GM or something, or like the next Tal or something. You know, just give your life to chess. All right. The Prince of Chess played knight to f6. Oh. Okay, the more solid move would be maybe bishop to e3, right? And that looks okay as well. But this is just a super creative move. Okay, G takes. I mean, it's not even a top recommendation by an engine, so not even one of the top ones. So it's super creative, and it makes way for black to make mistakes. So G takes f6, and we have queen to h4. Man, look at that. Okay, rook to d3, blocking this because it looks looking dangerous now. Vitiugov's like, I'm scared. I'm scared. You can also play queen to c6 for some counterplay, right? Threaten mate here. And then rook to e2. And perhaps now this knight can go in and block this diagonal, right? Because this bishop just looks, these bishops just look monstrous right now. But white is completely winning here. Bishop takes h6. Bishop takes, rook takes, bishop takes, and then you have e takes f6, and then, oh man, the thematic check is here. And then you have check, and then checkmate. So you probably should not capture this rook in this position. Yeah. So it's looking dicey. It's looking dicey. All right. So queen to c6, and then you could also play rook, king to g8, queen to g3 check, bishop to h8, queen to h4. And it's pretty unclear if black starts playing this, right? So now the king's in corner. If this bishop goes for this check instead of just straight up the king moving to the side, you have this super crazy position. Okay, there's this discovered check. Bishop takes. Then this queen goes in here for this check. And then, oh man, it's looking scary. Looking super unclear. And now this rook can go slide here for these kinds of ideas. Queen takes, knight takes. And then now it's these two bishops versus this bishop and knight. So the two bishops, as long as they get activated, right, they could possibly do more damage. And then this knight takes here. So black's pieces are a lot more active. And this, yeah, now it would end up being two bishops versus this rook, right? So, all right. Okay, if this happened, there's another way that this could happen. This is pretty difficult to see. You block here. Then bishop takes, rook to a8, queen to h7 check, king to f8, and then king to h2, and then now this bishop, I mean, black is ahead a piece, but the king is exposed, and white has to eye this. This rook can get activated, so this is also super unclear. So this is just a lot of unclear positions. This is a crazy game. A lot of unclear positions could arise. So, but this was played rook to d3, and then now we have this move, bishop to h6, bishop takes. If king goes to g8, then we have this, and then check. And if you want to pause, you can try to figure out what happens next. Okay, king goes here, and then e takes f6, check. So you can't take with a queen because your king is going to be attacked. So you just lose your queen here straight up. All right, e takes f6, queen takes, knight to e4, queen to h4, king to h7, queen to h5, knight to d6, g4, bishop to f3, and then, all right, let's see if you guys can find this next crazy move. Okay, so what should white play here? Okay, so black is in some sort of zugzwang here. Every move is really bad, but white's pieces all have to stay there, and it's like super difficult to see. Okay, I mean, Firouzja is like, if Firouzja was had a computer chip in his brain, you know, like maybe if he had stockfish in his brain, it would say like +9 or something, because that's how ahead he was. This is kind of insane. All right, let's see if you guys see the super special move. Okay, so man, if you see this move, you're crazy. You're like a super GM, because not even Firouzja saw this move. Okay, so you could play, one of the waiting moves is king to h2, right? Sometimes the hardest thing to do is just to sit still. So it's crazy though. After this, it can go like this: bishop to e2, queen to e5, right? And then if king goes to h8, going back and forth, and then now you finally take this. Oh, if you take this, you're just gonna get your queen, right? So you have to go queen to e7, and then after that, king here. Then this king tries to get activated, and you finally take this rook. Okay, this is all insanely difficult to see, man. This is insanely difficult unless you're like a superhuman or something. But eventually, this queen can actually can dominate these three pieces, right? By you can limit the mobility of this dark square bishop by putting the pawns on dark squares. So it's like insanely difficult to see. All right, and in bishop b1, the queen will also eventually dominate here. It's insane. Bishop to e2, and then we'll see these moves. Oh man, this is just insane stuff. Okay, finally rook takes, pawn takes, queen takes f7, check. And just see this in a short game is just, it would just be unreal. Okay, so there's this fork finally. So eventually this queen will dominate, but you had to play a pretty crazy waiting move, man. All right, so let's go back. What Firouzja played was queen to e5, okay, which is, he's still doing slightly better, but all right. Bishop goes back, and then king here, knight, check, and then king goes down because you don't want it to be on this diagonal with his bishop checks, right? King to f1, king to g8, queen takes. So this looks like something that white can play for, but it actually doesn't amount to much because there's too many pieces around this exposed king, right? And somehow this queen can't even get here. So it's crazy. If white can try for something with b4, and if there's rook d5, queen to f4, rook to d3, but these this is all stuff that's super difficult to see. H4, bishop to D6, queen to H6, bishop to F8, and then you have to keep undergoing this repetition. Because if you break this repetition, if you maybe go queen to C1, which is one of the moves you can make on this diagonal, right? Then rook takes C3, and now you're losing. Like, you're gonna lose this game. There are too many pieces around, and then now your pawn structure is discombobulated. This pawn can eventually queen. Just all around super complicated game. All right, but man, crazy. He could have converted this. The computer had Firouzja at +9, dude. +9. You hardly see people Super GM not convert that, but difficult. It's difficult to see. Okay, rook to D5, queen to B8, rook to D2, bishop takes, H4. All right, so limiting the mobility is dark square bishop. Okay, bishop to D3 check, king to G1. And this is the only way to play for a win, right? Just try to advance where you have the pawn majority. But then you have this problem here, right? You have this weak pawn here. And you have this... well, this bishop can't move because of this net right here. But this king can never move. So bishop to E4, king to F1. So here at this point, Firouzja just kind of accepted. Alright, I guess accepted the draw. Just kept going for a 3-move repetition. If you go at if you try to be like overzealous, maybe you try to go to queen to F4, right, to try to do something against this king. There's this bishop to C5 check, and now you have a lot of problems here. Okay, king to F1, rook to F2 check, queen takes, and then yeah, and then black is winning here. I mean, it might take a little effort to convert, but black is definitely winning. You can stop this pawns now, right? You have this bishop. So, yeah, yeah. Okay. Bishop to D3 check, and yeah, this is, if maybe, you can maybe try for something like this, and then use these pawns to restrict this the dark square bishop, but it looks pretty risky to me. Yeah, it looks super risky to try anything. So, kind of Firouzja just accepted that, you know, I lost my winning chances. Nah, he's okay. He's still, 16. He's still gonna be a superstar, hopefully. Alrighty, guys. If you saw that, Mikhail style stuff, congrats to you. And if you like this video, hit that notification bell like a clock. Hit that like button like a clock. And that subscribe button like a clock so you can see this cuddly face. Alrighty. Peace.